Hello everyone, welcome to the next session of this training. In this session, we will discuss about customizing procedure. As you know, in SAP implementation that you will be doing quite a lot of customizing and development changes, which is of course an integral part of SAP system while you are implementing any projects. So the project must be executed in a structured environment using different procedures. This is very much required in order to minimize the errors which may happen in your SAP implementation. So though the objective of the project organization must be divided into large number of activities among the team members to do their work without interfering others' work. So you must make sure that the logical difference which is performed in the project management for each different team members, but they are still integrated in the same project. That's the reason we have all these procedures which is developed by SAP. This is very much required to carry out the task of customizing in a structured way using three main roles and responsibilities in this project management. Meaning to say the entire task we can divide into three main responsibility of the project implementation. That is project manager and customizer and developer, as well as basis administrator, TMS administrator. We may have different names and we will have different people also involved in this one. This is the main three roles which will be part of the whole development, which is the part of the entire development cycle or entire implementation cycle. So first let's see what is project manager. Project manager basically creates the transport request and assign to appropriate member of the team. When a member is assigned to a transport request, the system creates a task and the setting of each member can be recorded on his own task. For each transport of other systems, the project manager can release the transport request when it is completed. So now you may think whether the project manager creates each transport request, it is feasible, not feasible. This again depends on how we are going to implement that. Okay, this is one concept and you can alter the concept again depend on the situation. Then we have customizer or developer. This is project manager, the project lead, who will create the transport request and assign to the members. Then it comes to the customizer. As a customizer, the functional consultant, you will use the IMG configuration to do their customizing, or if they are a developer, then they will do the development in the SAP system. And they will assign the customizing setting to the transport request which is created by the project manager. Then the unit test can be done in a specific client, meaning to say when we see our landscape, our client structures, we also see in the sandbox client. So you can do an unit test of the customizing activity, whatever you have done in the specific system, just copying the customizing activity to another system. You can do the unit test in the system without even releasing the TR, because what happens is once you finish the development or once you finish the customizing, then you will do the documentations for the task whatever you have done. Then you have to go back to project lead or the project manager to release the transport. So before releasing or before going to the project manager, let's assume the customizer want to test their configuration whether it is working or not. This is called unit test. So this test can be done in this specific test client which is in the development system itself. So for that you can copy the changes to a different client in the same system without even releasing the TRs. We will see how we can do that in the system. So once you finish the customizing, and then you will do the documentation, which is quite important. Once you finish the documentation, then we will go back to our project lead who will release the TRs. So this entire activity is controlled by authorizations which is given to the specific users, which we have seen in our previous sessions. So once it is released, then it goes to the transport directory. Then we come to the third person who is the basis consultant or the TMS administrator. The TMS administrator use the STMS or the TMS to transport the released transport to subsequent SAP system. Either it can be a QA system or productive system. So the releasing of the TR will be done by the project lead or can be some another person whoever responsible to do that, because they will see the quality of the customizing and the documentation behind that and the scope of the customizing is correct. This role, the quality check is done by the project manager. Once that is done, once they release the TRs, then the TMS administrator take over this task and they will do the transport to quality as well as the productive system. As I said, this cannot be the same case in all the project implementation. In many of the cases, this project lead or project manager will not be the person who will be releasing the TR, because if you see in a bigger implementation, you have more than 100 developers or customizers working in the project, and the project manager will not be able to handle this task. So it will be done by the team lead or the integration manager of specific module. This again depends on the project structure or the project management, how it's been structured. As I said, based on the experience, it is very clear that having a structured way of doing customizing and releasing this transport really helps you to minimize the errors in the productive systems. So the entire setup can be set up using TMS, all the transport methods and how the transport should do send to different systems. We also seen the previous sessions what are all the possible authorization concept which we can have. The detailed authorization concept is available in the security course. However, the entire operation can be handled or can be controlled using SAP standard authorizations. So in order to minimize or in order to have a proper quality, in order to have the good quality of your customizing and the delivering of the project, it is very important you need to have the structures and the guidelines and procedures as well as the documentation for each customizing and how this is being released to productive systems. Now let us see recording of customizing changes. As we know, whenever you do any customizing, the customizing changes are saved as table entries in the SAP system. So these table entries needs to be included in a transport request in order to transport the changes to specific systems. So what we also seen the SEC4 settings, using automatic recording changes, you can record the changes automatically to a specific transport request. Meaning to say, whenever you do any customizing changes, system will prompt you to select the TR or it will ask you to create the TR. You can also create the changes. You can also do the customizing without automatic recording, based on, again, this depends on our SEC4 configuration. However, in the without automatic recording is you have to manually add the transport or manually add the objects to the transports. But it is again little tricky here, because whenever you do any changes, it is not one table it is been affected. The configuration is saved in more than one table. Same we seen previously, whenever we created a country, it is not one table T005. There are three tables linked to this particular customizing activity. So you should be very clear about what is the table entries which we are going to create. So the best way is to do this customizing activities, use automatic recording, whereas the customizing is automatically added into a specific TR, which is quite easy and quite useful option. However, some of the transaction or some of the customizing activity is not automatically recorded. Same like our PFCG, whenever you create a role, it is not automatically recorded. So we have to manually create the TRs. So there are customizing activity which is not automatically recorded. So this customizing activity we can also identify in SPRO. If we go to SPRO, it's our system. Let's go to SPRO, SAP reference IMG. If you go to additional information, go to technical data, and you can see the transport type. You can see this is automatic transport. That means automatically it will be recorded. Let's try something else. You can see this is a manual transport. You can see maintain calendar. It's a manual transport. And this is an automatic transport. It's an automatic transport. Like this, you have the information whether this particular customizing is automatically transported or manually transported, because this is quite important. As a basis consultant, it is very important you need to know these kind of informations are already available in SPRO. Then if in case of any problem, you can guide the consultants properly in these kind of scenarios. Let's come back to our presentation. Next, let us talk about testing of customizing. So it is very important that you test your customizing whenever you do any changes in the system. So it is, if you test your customizing in development system, so before you release to quality system, you test it whether the customizing is correct, because you will have quite a lot of customizing activity in one specific task. So in that cases, if you have an option to test, if it is possible to do a test, as we said, this is a unit test in the development system, then the errors which may happen in the quality system is drastically reduced. So what we can do is, when you create any customizing, before releasing the transport request of this particular customizing, we can perform the unit test. That means that test the functionality of the customizing within the transport request, whatever which we have created, and verify the content of the transport request, whether this transport request have all the customizing changes which is required for this particular change. So for this activity, we can maintain a separate client. We can create a separate client in the development systems, which is called, let's say, unit test. So this particular client can be maintained with some test data. So whenever you are creating any customizing activity, you can transport these changes, or you can copy these changes using SEC1 to the next client as a task or as a transport request, then you can test the customizing activity in the next client where you have some test data. So in general, we can say all the customizing activity should be tested in the development system as an unit test. Then of course it will be tested in the quality system by the user or the key users. The unit test helps you, the customizer, to make sure the transport which is released from the development systems does not have any errors, or it contains all the changes which is required for the specific customizing. So this transport can be copied using transaction SEC1. It is quite easy. In general, what we do is the SEC1 authorization is given to all the customizing consultant or all the customizers, so that they can copy it by themselves whenever it is necessary. So it does not need to go to basis to copy this SEC1 TR, because this TR is anyway created by the customizer. They will know when it needs to be copied, then they can copy it by themselves. Generally it's given to all the customizers. So we will see how it works in the systems. So what we need to do is, you need to log in to the target client in order to copy the SEC1 transports. So let's log into our system and see how we can copy the TRs. So right now we are in our ECC systems. Actually, you need to log into the target client where you want to copy this TR. Then from there only you will be copying the TR from the source client. Let's assume this is our target client 001. Right now this is a fresh system. We do not have a many client, so we cannot have the real scenario here. Just wanted to show you how this client copy works, how the TR copy works. So if you go to SCC1 and you will specify the source client, which is the source client from which client we are going to copy this. Then you select the source client and put the transport request number, then say start immediately. Then it will going to start copying the transport request to this client 001. So you have to always log into the target client. So that's a key point here. So let's go back to our presentation. So next we are talking about releasing the TRs, which we already know. When you release the TR, it will be transported to the transport directory. That is again saved as raw files. We can also use these raw files to manually move from one place to another place, or one system to another system, which is not even in the landscape. In general, if you see some of the tools, if you buy it from an external vendors, they will give you the TR files. So we generally, what we do, if you want to copy this TR file into our system, or you want to import this program into our system, you copy the co-file into the co-file directory and the data file in the data file directory, and just go to STMS and add this transport to the queue, and then you can import this particular TR into the systems. So whenever you release the TR, it will go to the transport directory. So adding the TR into the transport queue also quite important. If you go to our system, let's go to STMS underscore import. So once you copy the TRs to the folders of the particular transport directory, then you can go to extras, transport request, and say add. Here you can specify the transport request number, then it will add to this import. Yeah, this file is exist and will add to this import, then it will be available here. Then you can select and start importing it. And sometime if you want to merge the transport request, let's say you have two different transport requests, if you want to merge it, then you can also merge this transport request. Okay, so how do we merge the transport request? So to merge the transport request, we can go to the transport organizer, that is the transaction code SE03. In SE03 you can do quite a lot of activities. Let's see how do we merge the request. You can see merge the object list. If you select this, you can see the TRs. You can select the TRs, okay, multiple TRs, then you merge it into one. Okay, this you can put more than one TRs here, multiple TRs, then you can merge it to one, and you can also assign to one owner, or you can also select which uh, transport we need to select, all the released one or the modified ones. Like this you can do the selection. This is merging of TRs. This is also quite useful in case when you are doing like copying from one system to another system, you wanted to put all the TRs into one, then this will be quite useful. Otherwise, you cannot copy thousands of TR from one system to another system. Then the whole sequence you need to order what sequence this was imported. These kind of issues will come. In that case, you can merge everything into one TR using this merge option. Then you can transport or you can copy it into a different system. Now let's see about cross-client customizing. This we already seen what is cross-client customizing. So as we previously seen, it is not only client specific customizing which is available in the SAP system. We have different types of customizing which is available in the SAP system. That is, first one is client specific customizing. This is the typical customizing where you specify some table entries which is specific to that client. Let's say for example the table T005 for creating the country is a client specific customizing. Okay, that is the customizing request. Whenever you create that kind of request, then we will use client specific customizing. That will be a customizing request. Then we have client independent customizing. These are all for example which is cross client, that is applicable for all the clients. Okay, these are also customizing, but this will affect all the clients. For example, the table T000 which saves all the client information, client settings. This is replicated, or this is affecting all the clients. So this is a cross client change. Then we have the repository change, basically the programs as well as the ABAP dictionaries objects are called repository object, as well as the function module also called repository objects, which is repository object changes. We can also view from the SPRO setting. Some of the customizing is client dependent setting or client independent setting. This also we can find it out from our SPRO. If I go to SPRO, the system, let's go to SPRO. Go to SAP reference IMG. Then here go to additional setting, technical data. Then you can see client dependence, which we also seen it before, which gives you the information about whether it is client cross-client customizing or client specific customizing. Okay, with this we are coming to the end of the session. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next session. Bye bye.